It was October 11th, 2012, a day that I will never forget. I was on my bike pushing up what seemed like a never-ending barren hill. And it wasn't just any hill. It was a 15-mile climb up to a town called Hawaii on the Hawaiian island of Kona. And it wasn't just any ride. It was at the Ironman World Championship. I could still feel my muscles burning. I was struggling, tired, and dehydrated. It's like I could feel the heat emanating from the asphalt, measuring almost 98 degrees. I was near the halfway point of the bike portion of one of the most prestigious, longest single-day endurance race events in the world. Every year during my childhood, I would watch this very race on TV with my dad on our 1970s-style orange and brown sofa. And the Kona Ironman is like the Super Bowl of triathlon. And I remember being in utter awe watching these athletes push themselves to their limit in this grueling race. Now, just so you don't get the wrong idea, my family weren't just spectators. They were very athletic, and I always participated from the sidelines, cheering on my 3 siblings or handing out water at local races. I remember wanting so badly to be able to compete, but I couldn't. By age 28, I was introduced to the sport of hand cycling, and then triathlon. And then by luck, I met Jason Fowler, an Ironman world champion, at a camp for athletes with disabilities. And like me, he competes in a wheelchair. And with his encouragement at age 34, I decided to go after Kona. So there I was, putting it all out on the line. And when I finally reached the top of that 15-mile climb, I was discouraged. There was no way I was gonna make that swim bike cutoff time of 10 and a half hours because I was almost 2 hours off pace. I had to make the agonizing decision to quit. I removed my timing chip and I handed it over to a race official. My day was done. My best friend Shannon and my husband Sean, they were waiting at the top of Hawaii to drive me back to town, and on my way back to town, I began to cry. I had failed. My dream of completing the Ironman World Championship was crushed. I was embarrassed. I felt like I messed up. I worried about what my friends, my family, and people at work would think of me. What was I gonna put on Facebook? How was I gonna explain to everyone that things didn't go the way I had assumed or planned? My first attempt ended in failure, but I knew that I had to put that failure behind me in order to move forward. And it wouldn't be the first time that I had faced insurmountable odds. I was born in Bombay, India, and just before my first birthday, I contracted polio, which left me paralyzed from the hips down. Unable to care for me, my birth mother left me at an orphanage. Fortunately, I was adopted by an American family, and I moved to Spokane, Washington, just shortly after my 3rd birthday. And over the next few years, I underwent a series of surgeries on my hips, my legs, and my back that allowed me to walk with leg braces and crutches. As a child, I struggled with my disability. I felt like I didn't fit in. People stared at me all the time. I was self-conscious about wearing a back brace and leg braces, and I always hid my chicken legs under my pants. As a young girl, I thought thick, heavy braces on my legs did not look pretty or feminine. Among my generation, I'm one of the very few individuals in the US who are living with paralysis by polio today. Many people who contract polio in developing countries don't have access to the same medical care, education, or opportunities like I have had in America. Many do not even live to see adulthood. Thankfully, today, we are closer than ever to eliminating polio everywhere in the world. Since 1988, more than 2.5 billion children have been immunized against polio, and an estimated 16 million children who otherwise would have been paralyzed like me are walking. Polio is preventable with a vaccine, but as a polio survivor, I can tell you that until it's eradicated, polio remains a very real threat, especially to children in the poorest communities of the world. Once every child is vaccinated, the polio virus will have nowhere to live. We can end it. We have to put our minds to it and overcome the odds. So on Saturday, October 12th, 2013, 1 year and 2 days after my first attempt at Kona, I swam 2.4 miles, hand cycled 112 miles, and pushed a racing wheelchair, a marathon, or 26.2 miles, for a total distance of 140.6 miles with only the use of my arms. I crossed that finish line, and my final time was 14 hours and 39 minutes. For the first time in the 35-year history of the sport of Ironman, a female wheelchair athlete completed the Ironman World Championship. And it wasn't just any female athlete, it was me, a paralyzed orphan from India. After crossing that finish line, I was overwhelmed with joy and excitement. It was a storybook ending and the realization of a dream that seemed impossible to achieve. And finally, I realized that the journey itself was so much bigger than me. It represents what is possible. We all have the courage and resilience to succeed at whatever it is that motivates us. And that same determination that I have had for sports has driven me to become a fierce advocate for polio eradication. And if I can beat a 15-mile climb and an entire Ironman with only my arms, you better believe that together we can end polio once and for all.